Welcome to the IndyCar Red Pill, the show where we talk about IndyCar racing, no punches pulled and no filter. And ironically, we're actually talking about a race that hasn't happened a week after it happened. Timely videos, everybody. That's the key to YouTube. Road America. It was a decent race. And after Texas, all we needed was a decent race. We had a week off from IndyCar after Texas, and boy did the teams need it. Real quick, Texas rant. $2.5 million was the final total crash damage money sum from Texas. What do you think the return on investment was for IndyCar racing? Probably the TV rating did not justify $2.5 million in damage to the poor teams. I digress. Road America made up a lot of the problems of last week, and a lot of those problems were forgotten. Like I said, this was a decent race, probably a solid 8 out of 10 if I had to give a rating scale on the 1 to 10 scale. Probably the second best race of the year behind Indianapolis. There was a couple lead changes. There was a couple big crashes that we'll talk about. And ultimately, a guy winning the race that hasn't won a race all year, unless you count the pole position for the Indy 500, Scott Dixon. Now, of course, since there's no current Scott Dixon gear, I'm wearing last year's jersey. Unfortunately, this company right here is not looking too smart right now. For several reasons, in fact, not just on the racetrack, but off of it. Target, what the heck? Why are you not sponsoring Scott Dixon anymore? Really? I mean, I get it. You know, your NASCAR program has had a few more wins this year, and Kyle Larson may have more potential down the line than Scott Dixon does. I mean, one is significantly on a much higher career path than the other at this point. But Dixon is clearly, I mean, seriously, clearly, if I can't make this any more clear and serious and all of that, Dixon is the A.J. Foyt, the Mario Andretti of this generation. He genuinely is. I'm more convinced about that this year than I ever have been, because this is one of the first years we've seen Dixon in a car that isn't the best. In fact, the last time we saw him in a car that wasn't the best, it was his first 1.5 rookie year at Pac West. Guess what? He won at Pac West. Pac West had not won since in about 3 or 4 years at that point. Pac West was using Toyota engines, I believe, or maybe it was even the Mercedes. In fact, it was 2001, so he was using a Toyota engine. They were using the Toyota engine, which was not particularly the best engine. They were not the Toyota factory team. So this is the second time we've really seen Scott Dixon in an uncompetitive, or not uncompetitive, but less competitive ride. And the guy won the race. He beat 4 Penske cars, including perhaps the hottest prospect, according to Roger Penske at least, because he hired him, in all of IndyCar racing, Joseph Newgarden. Scott Dixon, what he did at Road America was absolutely prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's not only the best driver in the series, maybe one of the best active race car drivers, period, in the world today. It's unbelievable. And so the fact that the Target left this year, where it looks like Scott Dixon is going to, I mean, if he keeps this form up, he's going to run away with the championship. He's going to win the championship. And, you know, you got to think that confidence is going to can only build on next year when the spec body kits come in and Chevrolet loses their aerodynamic advantage. Because Honda's advantage has been horsepower. What happens when everybody's got the same level of downforce, the same level of drag? Guess what? The guys with the most horsepower, the guys with the biggest engine, are generally going to win. And when you've got the best driver in the fastest car, you know, and everybody's got the same aero, this is going to continue. So, Target, you stopped sponsoring Scott Dixon because you had to fix your bathrooms. Now, granted, Target bathrooms are maybe the worst. Believe me, I went in a Target bathroom today. They're the worst. Fix your bathrooms, Target. I get that. But really? You cut the sponsorship of Scott Dixon? So, Target, fix your bathrooms, and then fix your minds, because this is they literally passed up the greatest race car driver maybe on the planet today. Good job, Target. I wish you luck in the future endeavors. Actually, that's just a talk all of itself. I mean, Dixon had NTT Data on the car. Do you really think NTT Data paid a lot of money for that title sponsorship? The more I keep thinking about Dixon's accomplishment at the Road America race, the more I keep thinking of just how great he is. And so I guess that's why I need to talk about this. And just wow, what a drive. What a drive. So more things to talk about. I think this is going to be a pretty short episode. There's not too much else to talk about outside of the fact that Helio Castroneves is having maybe the greatest season he's had in a very long time. And it seems like every race has been the question mark of how is Helio going to lose it? Because it seems like whether it's bad strategy, bad tire strategy, bad fuel strategy, damage like at Indianapolis, it doesn't matter what position he seems to be able to put himself. Most of the time, he doesn't lose the race based on his own merit. He loses it based on other situations. He's having the worst luck, and yet some of the best driving of his career is happening right now. So, obviously, if Dixon the wheels don't completely fall off of Dixon, Helio's got no shot at the championship in a season where I think Helio maybe has had the best shot he's ever had at a championship, which is really weird. I don't even think Helio is going to take a win this year. Where's he going to do it? It seems like the road courses, his strategy calls have just been terrible. People were blaming Roger Penske, but Roger Penske wasn't making the calls this week, and the strategy was not great, and he finished third because of it. He had a great lead. It looked like he had the car that could have maybe fought Dixon, but he was mired back in traffic on the restarts, and there was nothing he could do. So I don't know what Helio's just going to need a different strategist or some. I don't know what Helio's going to have to do, but Helio, man, just really a shame for him. But yeah, Helio's having one of the best seasons he's ever had. Unfortunately, Dixon's having a better season, and I think he's really going to establish himself at the end of the season, Dixon I'm talking about, as the premier guy, and he's going to run away with the championship. Big point of contention at Road America was blocking. I think the blocking would start. I mean, we saw it at Texas, certainly, and maybe some at Indianapolis, but the blocking is starting to get absolutely absurd and frankly quite dangerous. We saw it in the Kanaan and Rossi wreck. That was certainly not one of the most egregious of the blocking incidents. In fact, I would say maybe Kanaan shouldn't have been looking in that, coming up to the kink. But we saw Power completely chop Pagenaud at one point. Ray Hall put Dixon in the dirt. I'm sure there's 100 other examples I'm thinking of. Reactionary moves, or even slightly non-reactionary moves at a track like Road America or a track like Texas. Man, these are two of the most dangerous tracks IndyCars go to. You can't be playing games, because eventually somebody's going to end up in the trees because somebody jinked when they should have janked. It's going to be. So I hope IndyCar starts cracking down on the blocking, especially because Iowa's coming up next. Short oval, not a lot of room to be, messing around and being silly. So we'll see about that, but that's something I just definitely needed to touch upon. Another thing I wanted to touch upon was the crashes we saw at the kink. Obviously, the fastest corner, pretty much in road course racing, in IndyCars at least. And we saw two crashes there. The first crash was Takuma Sato, who had been pretty sick all weekend with or not sick, I guess you could call a physical ailment a sickness, but he had a stinger in his neck, and just went off the road at the kink, and the car got airborne in the grass, and he was lucky to be alive, or not alive, but lucky to be uninjured. We had seen a similar situation with Justin Wilson about 2011, I want to say, at Mid-Ohio, where Wilson actually broke his back because the car had bottomed out so heavily on the ground. So good to see Takuma was all right. But did raise a little bit of the concern that a lot of people have which is the grass on the outside of the circuits. And I want to really quickly touch upon this point, because if you start paving a lot of grass on racetracks, you start running into the problem that Le Mans had last week, which was to say that Le Mans has their 8.5-mile circuit, which is mostly public roads, meaning there's grass on the outside. In the last couple of years, they've actually ended up starting to pave large sections of the grass, places that used to be grass. Unfortunately, what happens in racing is when you pave grass, generally the drivers start driving on that pavement. And what that creates is absolutely insane situations where drivers are putting way too much mustard on their moves, going 3 and 4 wide in places that they should not be, and ultimately it created, at least at Le Mans, it created some absolutely savage accidents during the course of the race, with some of the faster guys passing some of the slower guys in really stupid positions, and specifically I'm talking about an incident that involved the Risi Competizione Ferrari, which has actually taken them out of the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, a race I'm going to. So thanks for that, LMP2 driver. I don't get to see a Ferrari at Watkins Glen. But anyway, to get off the Le Mans red pill for a second, I think if you start paving things at the kink or in fast corners on road courses, you're just asking for trouble. The one thing I will say that you're not asking for trouble with in regards to, in terms of safety, especially at the kink or specifically on road courses in general, safer barriers. I think we need a safer barrier down there at the kink after Kanan's crash. Heavy crash. I think if he wasn't in triathlete shape, he probably would have been injured. We still don't know if he's injured because he left the track before people could really get in any interviews with him. But yeah, a massive crash for Tony Kanaan into solid concrete. We haven't seen an IndyCar go into solid concrete in quite a long time, so it was good to see the DW12 held up against that impact. It was good to see that Tony Kanaan was able to pop out, but again, on the exit of high-speed corners, don't pave the grass, put up safer barriers. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think of a few other things to maybe talk about. I think, boy, I don't know if I should bring this up because I feel like it's a can of worms, but just real quick, what is Marco Andretti? I don't want to be the guy to say hang up the helmet, and I want to be really careful because I like Marco, and I think he's a good guy, and I think had his career gone a little bit differently, maybe he spent some time in sports cars before he went full time to IndyCar, I think we would have been talking about things a little bit different. But I think it may be time to be an Indy only guy. Maybe time to go to the IMSA sports car program that Andretti Autosport are talking about. It's unfortunate when you have to start saying things like that. I don't take any pride in saying it, but I think it may be time. You got some guys in the Road to Indy program as well that I think would probably like that seat. It's tough. It's tough to say that, but at the same time, I guess the thing that keeps Marco around more than the familial connections, of course, is the fact that his name is able to generate some sponsorship. You still see his car have more sponsorship than the Indy 500 winner Takuma Sato's car. That's just a fact. So I guess we'll see him around because he can gain sponsors. And you know, fair play to him. He is a race car driver. That is his profession. And if he chooses, if he remains employed, if there's someone willing to employ him, even if it is his dad, I don't see any problem with him continuing. But that's about it. Short episode of the IndyCar Red Pill today. Not too controversial, unlike the Texas race. I feel like I've had to censor this target. Maybe I'll do that in post, at least maybe at the beginning. But thank you guys for watching. Leave some comments down below if you wanted me to comment on anything. Discuss away in the comments about Road America, about maybe my safety discussion. That seems like a hot button issue, as it usually is. And who was at fault for any and all of the incidents? Pretty good race, like I said, solid 8 out of 10. Not amazing, not terrible. I can't wait for Iowa. I love short oval racing. Maybe my favorite racing in all of the IndyCar series, just from the fact that you get the speeds of a super speedway and the traffic of a multi-class sports car race. So, Iowa Speedway, Actually, you know what? I'll make a prediction real quick. I think Hildebrand's going to have a really good day. I think Newgarden's going to be really tough to beat, and look out for Carlos Munoz. But it'll probably be a Chevy that wins. So thank you guys so much for watching the IndyCar Red Pill, and we'll see you in the next video.